applications. So the topic today is, I'm sure this vibe coding is something you all have done in your enterprise, even on a personal level. What I'm going to be talking about is how that can be detrimental for an enterprise. So let's start here. If you don't think about that, this is what it's going to do to the enterprise, right? This is the Frankenstein we're all creating. And if you think about that, this whole idea of anybody can build anything sounds pretty cute when you are a startup or when you're doing a weekend project. But when it comes to an enterprise, that's what it starts doing. This modernization that we're all up to at a speed of thought can create a huge amount of technical debt. And I like to call that creating technical debt at an AI speed. This whole vibe coding, unless managed centrally through guardrails, this is what you're going to be ending up with. You can create a scanning application, you can create a mobile application, you can create a portal, you can create agents left, right, and center, and you can do it pretty quickly. The problem is, unless you unify all of that and have guardrails and have compliance and have security, it's going to become a monster that's going to eat the enterprise itself. So building in this AI age, anything is easy. But really executing that within an enterprise, that's the hardest part. And that's what we try to address as part of this presentation. Now think of that like vibe coding that can build, like I said, your apps, your agents, your workflows, whatever you can think of. Your cloud can do that, we all know it. Now the problem is when it has to live in a reality of an enterprise, what really happens? How do you execute it with compliance? How can you democratize innovation at the same time centralize compliance so that you are having the best of both? Now, a unified platform, what that's going to do, the foundation layer, I'm sure we've all heard about that, AI autonomy needs some foundation. That's the foundation we're talking about here. And how that foundation is going to be working alongside your JD Edwards and other applications that you rely on without having to replace them is the key thing that we're going to be talking about. If you have to build your mobile apps and portals or your agents or your workflows, you got to make sure that they do not bypass that foundation. They do not bypass the business logic. They do not bypass the compliance and security that you build in your core system of records. So like I said, the portals, the agents, the apps, workflows, AI can build beautiful applications and workflows. The problem always been, it doesn't really understand your JD Edwards that well. So having the core system of record, staying a system of record, all the transaction integrity in there with your JD Edwards at the core is critical. And then on top of it, you have AIS, which some of our folks said that is critical, right? When you talk about orchestration, a lot of people understand orchestration. Not many understand the AIS, which is the engine that runs that orchestration. Literally what AIS does is virtualizes any and everything a user can do in your JD Edwards. AIS is like an API layer on top of it. So you have the core JD Edwards, your workhorse, and then you have AIS, which is the API access to anything that your workhorse can do. On top of it, you have the orchestrator, right? So up till here, we all know how that looks like. It's been about a decade that orchestrator has been around and has done some great stuff. What Swift really is a layer on top of it. So like I said, it should not create a silo. It should not create cool toys that do not understand the bigger picture and do not understand the core functionality. So Swift is that no-code enterprise automation layer. Now, like I said, I'm going to compare vibe coding with what we now call as vibe no coding. And I'll show you some demos in order to do that. Now, beyond what Swift does with your ERP, it actually does everything with any system that you can think of. The system that you currently use, the system that you're going to use in the future, or the systems that you can actually create with Swift. And once you do that, then you have all these sort of use cases, right? Then you come up to those use cases for your mobility, for your warehousing, for your approvals, for your field applications, for your self-service portals for customers, suppliers, employees, or an end-to-end automation or AI agents. So this sequence is critical. Now, the way we evolved as a platform, so you've known us for no-code as a Swift platform that can connect with different ERPs. We started with JD Edwards, now we are across multiple ERPs. That was the first product we had, which was the Swift apps or portals combined, right? We are completely device agnostic, so anything that you build as an app also works like a portal and vice versa. Then we realized that you should not have multiple platforms like Swift for multiple system of records. Kills the purpose. You should not have siloed platforms. That's why we went multi-cloud. We said one platform should be able to connect your Salesforce, ServiceNow, JD Edwards in the same way without having to have the knowledge of each of those separate systems. Because when you are a business analyst or a subject matter expert, you do not need to be an expert of Salesforce, or you do not need to be an expert of ServiceNow. You should be an expert of order to cash, or the service management, or a finance process. You should not be an expert of system, you should rather be an expert of subject matter expert. That's why you call it subject matter expert. You don't call them systems experts. So we said, okay, we want to go multi-cloud, and that's where we created flows. A Swift flow is a workflow. Think of it like a multi-cloud orchestrator that can connect to your orchestrations, can connect to your AIS, anything that your JD can provide, but also can connect to anything any other system can provide, that system that sits in your organization today or might connect later. Then we realized there will be some gaps, some white spaces, right? You have your JD Edwards, you have your Salesforce, and maybe you need CPQ functionality. How are you going to go about that? Are you going to start buying those subscriptions for the third-party system, or the other worst option is, are you going to start white coding all of that? That's where we build Swift objects so that you can understand the context of everything that you've got and what you have missing, and then can fill those gaps with those Swift objects, but at the same time cross-reference everything else. That's where the Swift objects came in. And then once we had that strong foundation, then was the point we introduced AI on top of it. So we have two key products, Swift AI Designer, and I'll talk about the other one, Swift Agent Studio. The Swift AI Designer, literally what it does everything that you can manually do, not write code, but manually visually do. It automates that process as well, and gives you a brainstorming session where it's gonna, and we'll take a demo and you kind of understand. And then we added agents on top of it. And the important thing is all of them have to be connected together. Agents should be able to be embedded inside of your app, so that whole debate about whether apps, the agent is going to eat up the apps or they just become part of the apps gets killed. So you have them all unified. The agents can kickstart your workflows, your Swift flows. Not directly, they can obviously go directly to your orchestration, but if they go through flow, you get all the benefits of the orchestrator. You also get the benefit of connecting to any other system as well, within the same context of the process flow. Now, just a quick comparison of what this vibe coding tools have been doing and how they become a Frankenstein, how they can become a Frankenstein over time, is because the biggest issue is the technical debt. So the AI-based code is going to become a technical debt, that huge dragon that we won't know what to do with it. The business logic silos, because when you vibe code something, it doesn't fully understand the whole context of what you already have. So it starts creating more stuff and a lot of redundancies start coming up. It doesn't really leverage the metadata, the structure of how you've perfected your business and the process and the data structures. The maintenance nightmare is basically going to happen. And the security gets siloed, right? So for each type of application you build, it has its own silo of security, and it's very hard to manage. Now, if you compare that to no code plus AI, and I've been using this term so much that people have just given me a name of no code plus AI. And what the hell does that mean? What that means is that no code foundation, which I just talked about and we'll see in the demo. Once you have that rock solid foundation, which is enterprise-wide, not siloed to an ERP or not siloed to a single SaaS application, once you have that solid foundation, what the AI autonomy can do on top of it. And when the subject matter expert and then AI is going to have a brainstorming session, and then we'll see in the demo how beautiful that's going to be and how robust and how compliant that output is going to be based off of that. So what it really does, it reverses all the other issues that we talked about earlier, using Claude in isolation, for example. The metadata leverage, I'm not going to put the details of each one of them. I'm going to, you can just read through real quick some of the keywords here. It is JDE aware, which is a huge deal. So what you really do is you don't rebuild the same logic that you already have, but rather you inherit the business logic you already have in the enterprise and you extend it. And security, auditability, and compliance. It really gives you the agility of a startup, but at the same time, the auditability of a bank. And I'll show you some quick features that really go deep in terms of whatever it logs, right? So every click, every AI action, every workflow step, and every app click, everything gets tracked so that you can do that audit. Not just that, everything that gets built through this platform gets tracked. So you don't just throw it away on a hallucination of AI and just get done with it. No, everything that will get tracked. It's multi-cloud and multi-system. Multi-cloud in the sense is completely cloud agnostic. You can host it on-prem or cloud-prem as they call it, like in your own scale private instance if you want, or completely on-prem or on our cloud. Multi-system in the sense that I can connect not just with JD Edwards, but any system of record that we currently have or might have in the future. Just a quick comparison of the vibe coding way in terms of speed, really fast, but when it breaks, nobody owns it. The Swift unified way is exponential and sustainable. The UX is fragmented and siloed. Like I said, every time you create an app or a portal, one portal doesn't know about the other, and there's no strong foundation that ties it all together. In our case, either it's a mobile scanning application or a PO approval application or a self-service portal, doesn't matter. All of that into one unified platform, the benefit of which you can't overestimate. JD integration, no hard-coded API calls, everything is metadata driven, so the engine calls the APIs, everything is still standard, it's just so much more robust and auditable. The compliance, SOC 2, Type 2 compliance, SOX compliance, ISO, and all those bells and whistles there. Now let's talk about the demos. Enough of talking, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna first of all create a Swift application based on the JD Edwards modules and forms. No orchestration required. Doesn't matter you have an orchestration written for that process or not. What it's gonna do is you can have a chat session with it. You're gonna fully understand. You're gonna brainstorm. You're gonna create a PO approval application. You're gonna ask you where your POs reside, either in the JD Edwards or in some other system. You use Coupa, for example. How does it all work? It's gonna actually brainstorm with you. If it doesn't have a connectivity to Coupa, it's going to create that connectivity to Coupa. It's already connected with JD Edwards, and then it's going to start building an application based off of whatever you are telling it and brainstorming with it. Let's take a quick demo. I'm going to try and fast forward some of those so that we don't lose time on it. So here's an example of a PO approval application where it kind of quickly did that. So let me run this one. So this is the designer that you see. And I'm going to right away get into my AI agent or Swift agent. I'm going to talk to it. I want to create a PO approval application. It's going to keep asking me questions to clarifications that it requires. So it's not just goes ahead and just starts building it. It's going to clarify it. And I'm being a business analyst who understands the process can start telling that how I want to do it. Where are my POs? How I want to get the approval? What level of approval hierarchy do I need for it? All of those good things, right? So I'm going to fast forward this just to kind of show you what it's really doing. It's created a PO approval application. Now it's asking whether I need a header level, do I need to use a line items level, etc., etc. And if I'm going to fast forward, you realize that it's going to understand that which particular application should it actually use. So I told that, build me a form that can show me the list of POs awaiting approval. So at every step, as you can see, right, it's asking questions, clarifying requirements, as opposed to hallucinating. It's really keeping the human in the loop throughout the whole process of building that application. Now you see it, like based on all the conclusions we did, it realized that this is your form application. And by the way, it's not generically looking at the documentation of JD Edwards. It's actually looking at your own metadata. So if you have custom applications, custom tables or custom form that you build, it has that visibility with it. So it's based off all that. So think of it like a vector database of the metadata of your ERP and other systems. So it fully understands each one of those things. Now, based off of that, what it's going to do is it's going to go ahead and it's going to start creating the application based on that. So while you're chatting with it, it's already started to, you don't even have to drag and drop because it understood it. It started creating these fields, and all of these fields are going to start becoming available on your mobile apps, on your web platform. You just have to give rights to whichever users, maybe to procurement. You can give rights directly to your JD Edward role or to a JD Edward user, or you can create Swift users. Maybe that Swift user has to have connectivity across multiple systems. That way you can have that. So here it's created the application that can, again, like I said, run across multiple devices. So that was the first part of the demo, right? We created a quick application based off of its understanding of all the systems that were connected to it. The second one is we're going to create a Swift flow. We're going to talk to it again, and we're going to say, okay, create me a workflow. This is what I'm trying to build. Let's see what it does for that. In this case, it's built a kind of orchestrator style flow. But the beauty of it is, at any point, based on my brainstorming again, it could link one step with JD Edward, the other one with Salesforce, the third one with ServiceNow, and then send a push notification to the warehouse operator and an email confirmation to the customer, so that the whole process works. And by the way, that push notification is going to go to an app that again is built on Swift, where the warehouse operator can actually do the work order completion and start doing the shipping process. So that's what I mean by unified platform, right? Where the whole context, the foundation is the same. It understands the context of each piece of it, and you can tie the whole process both visually from a user experience standpoint as well as from a process standpoint, all within the same platform. So I'm going to quickly run this second demo. Again, I'm brainstorming with it. I'm telling what I'm trying to achieve. These are the different steps it has sort of identified and created as a sales order in my JDE. As you would notice, it automatically understood, mapped all the right form services. I didn't need to write an orchestration for it. It understood there is a P4210 that has a sales order entry, and this is what it's going to use and do it. And if I had to update my HubSpot or a Salesforce, it's going to do the same thing with that other system, and it's going to send a notification to the customer based on that process. So I'm going to fast forward it again, but you can see all of that got done just by me brainstorming with it, but it did not hallucinate, it did not just go ahead and build some white code that nobody has any idea what the hell that is, right? Just doing it at every step. And at any point in time, I can take control back with myself. So I can say, you stop hallucinating. If it starts doing it, you still have everything visually laid down and you can start pointing and clicking. The whole JSON structure, everything, irrespective of which system it is, it fully understands and unifies all of it into one unified platform. It can write email formats for you, right? Again, based on whatever you've told it, it's already started to write the email that's going to go out to the customer. Like, you can edit it if you want without having to go into the code at any point in time. Okay, so now that we've seen the power of that workflow, quick time check. 7 minutes, I think I'll be okay with that. So the next one we're going to take a look at is creating the Swift agents. Now, I know we've talked a lot about AI agents and then what things they can do and how much action they can take and stuff they can do. We wanted to make sure that those agents are in the context of the Swift flows that we talked about, the apps that we talked about, and the foundation that we've spoken about. So that again, those agents are not on their own, right? They can't just start doing crazy things that nobody has the accountability for. So let's take a look at how agents are built with Swift. First of all, instead of having to program agents or specialized agents that we ship to you, you get the platform and then you brainstorm with it. What we call a meta prompt engine. So instead of just prompting the agent, what you basically do is that meta prompt engine understands what you want that agent to be able to do. And then it also allows you to give all the knowledge that you want to give to it. There are two key pieces to it. One we call an intelligent node, and the other ones we call an action node. And as I show in the demo, the intelligent node is basically where you give it all the context and all the meta prompts. So let me actually show you one real quick one in the real environment, if I may. So this is what an agent looks like, right? So you can literally create an agent using AI itself. So I'm going to create an agent, and I say build with AI. Now here I can give my brain down. I can tell, maybe I can even tell it that, no, I'm having issues with my supply chain, or we are having inventory shortages across different warehouses because of the supply chain issues. Whatever I want to tell it, right? I'm going to go ahead and tell it here. We are having Right, so what I told that is we are having issues, supply chain issues because of Strait of Hormuz is closed in our European divisions. Create an agent that can help give us some ideas how we solve that problem. What basically doing is going out, looking at the LLM. So this on one side of it, it has whatever LLM you want to configure with it. So you get an option that you want to use Claude or Gemini or whichever LLM. On the other side, it's going to understand based on the subject matter expertise that you provided it, which is what you're trying to solve for. And then thirdly, it's going to understand all the systems that you already have. If there are any flows available to it, it's going to use those flows, and it's going to start connecting with it. So it's going to, all of those things are going to get together into one picture. There you go. It's created what's called supply chain mitigator EU, right? What's basically done, you created a persona. You can have a deep reasoning agent or a high volume one. You can design the way you want it. You can give you some chat suggestions and some common thing that you want to have that agent do. You can provide it knowledge base. You can provide it all the different policies, routing policies, procurement policies, whatever you want to provide here. You can do that. And then on the agent flow side, it's built this whole thing on its own. So each of these intelligent nodes, what it's basically done, is in plain English, it has written all these logic. So the point you were trying to talk about, right, training the agent, it's in your hands. So AI to build AI. So you gave it the business problem, and as detailed as you wanted to get in there, you could have done it. It's basically created the whole engine and has, in plain English, started to train the agent. So if you think it hallucinated somewhere, you could go in and actually start customizing it on your own, right? So that's where the subject matter experts come in. Now these highlighted thing that you see here is basically what it did. It actually connected these to what we call the action nodes. And you see the chain of actions there too. Now at every action node, what you can do is, you can either call any of those swift flows we were talking about, right? Or it can call the channel directly. So if you want to call a JD Edwards, and you can select any of the modules of your JD Edwards, you can understand the forms that are within those modules and what actions you can take. All the security is in play, so you can pick up any of those things, right? For example, if I want to pick up any one of these modules, it's going to understand what that module form is, what are the actions available and the row exits available in that particular form with all the security intact. I can select any of those actions, or first I'll select the version. It's going to know all the actions. I'm going to select those actions. I can map all the fields right here, and I can specify some of the fields as required, some of them as optional, all in my hands. What it's going to do is, it's going to create, I'm just simply going to ahead and publish this agent. And now I can embed that agent inside of Slack or inside of Microsoft Teams, or have it as standalone, or I can embed that agent inside of my procurement portal or a mobile app. Up to me how I want to use that and consume that agent. And that agent is literally ready to go. That agent can be secure agent that requires your JD Edwards user ID authentication, or it could be a public facing or an agent that you plug into your website. That could be a public agent. So really powerful stuff that you can do with that. Next, what I'm going to do is take a few seconds, and is pretty much the last thing I'm going to do. By the way, you can do the same thing to create. Let me show this one as well if you have a couple more minutes. So think of a scenario where you do not have an integration to a system that you just acquired, but you want to integrate that with your JD Edwards. Let's say Coupa, right? So Coupa procurement system, you just acquired that and you have JD Edwards. You want to make sure that you integrate that with Coupa. Yeah, let me move to this one. So I want to create a new integration, and I want to connect that integration through a workflow with AI efforts. Let's see how I'm going to collaborate with AI to do that. So I'm just telling that I want to create an integration. So it's going to keep asking me where your POs are, where the approval happens, all of that good thing, and then it's going to automatically pick up the API of Coupa, create a channel for Coupa, and it's going to create a workflow that's going to integrate area efforts and Coupa together, but everything visually, no coding in there, so that you, like you see here, starting to ask questions, making confirmations. I'm going to fast forward. It created this Coupa channel. It created all the endpoint APIs based on the documentation of Coupa. And then the next step, I'm going to ask it, okay, now create an integration. It's going to tell me the scenarios of integration that are typical with Coupa and area efforts. And it's going to ask me to select one of those. I selected one of them, and it's going to go ahead. There you go. It's created that integration, and within that integration, it would have mapped already, and then you can have conditional rules in there. You'll notice it has already integrated to that API, and then you can do the mapping between those systems as well. One more minute. So now the same paradigm is what you can apply for any custom system whatsoever. So here in this last demo, it's going to take a minute. What I'm going to show is if there's this functionality that does not exist. For example, I want to create a vendor onboarding portal, and I don't have that functionality to vet the vendor and do all of those things. It's going to go ahead and based on the best practices, it's going to create all the different objects. It's going to keep confirming with me that I'm creating this, I'm creating a vendor performance checklist, and all of that is going to create that whole data structure for me, as you can see here. And then the next prompt can be that, okay, go ahead and create a vendor onboarding process, create a self-service portal for the vendor. It's going to actually start creating all of that as part of that whole process. And everything, like I said, that you do here is logged. So if I go in there for the logging, for auditing, at every step of the way, whether AI is doing it, or the user is doing it, or the designer is doing it, everything is getting logged. So you can pull up that export of the log, and you can have fully compliant audit at the end of the day. So with that, thank you so much. We'd love to have any feedback or questions on our table. We'll be right there. Thank you.